Trash belongs with trash, my father declared into the microphone, holding up the faded old savings booklet my grandmother had quietly passed to me moments before. He didn't just make fun of it. He tossed the book straight into a bucket of chilled champagne and ice. As the guests erupted in laughter, I didn't make a sound. I reached my hand into the freezing water, staining my wedding gown to rescue those soggy pages, and walked out without a single glance behind me. Before I reveal the secret hidden inside those damp, crinkled pages and how I leveraged it to shatter my father's hollow empire, tell me in the comments. What is the most hurtful thing a relative has ever done to you at a family event? I'm reading every single one. 3 days later, I walked into the main branch of City National Bank in downtown Chicago. The lobby was all polished marble and quiet murmurs, a world away from the turmoil I had escaped in Greenwich. I carried the passbook in a small plastic bag. The pages were warped and smudged with champagne marks, appearing precisely like the worthless item my father claimed it to be. I'm Elena, and at 29, I've built my life around staying unnoticed. Working as a trauma nurse, I've mastered it. I understand how to blend into the chaos while doctors shout and patients bleed. I know how to keep secrets. Yet standing there in my secondhand jacket, waiting for the young teller to finish typing, I felt completely vulnerable. I need to verify the funds in this account, I said, pushing the plastic bag across the sleek counter. It was an inheritance. The teller, a woman around 22, picked it up carefully, a slight grimace crossing her face. She punched in the account digits, likely anticipating an error notice or a balance of 0. Then she froze. Her hands stopped moving over the keyboard. She blinked, leaned in toward the monitor, and her face went pale. "Ma'am," she breathed, her voice shaking. "Please remain here. Don't move." She didn't trip a silent alarm, but the effect was identical. Within moments, the branch supervisor and a man in an expensive custom suit, the regional vice president, were hurrying over to me. They didn't pay attention to my modest coat. They stared at me as if I were forgotten royalty. "Miss Vance," the VP said, guiding me toward a heavy metal door in the back. "Please come with me. We've been anticipating someone to claim this account for years." They brought me into a private meeting room filled with the scent of aged paper and dust. As they left to locate the file, I sank into the leather chair and shut my eyes. And abruptly, I was no longer in a bank vault. I was 10 years old again, on my knees, on the hardwood floor of my father's office. Julian sat in his leather armchair, swirling his bourbon, observing me. He had knocked it over on purpose. I was certain of it, but the rule was unchanging. Girls serve, boys rule. Mason was stretched out on the couch, absorbed in a video game, his dirty shoes on the coffee table I had just cleaned. "You overlooked a spot, Elena," Julian murmured gently. He rarely shouted. He preferred witnesses to his cruelty. He enjoyed watching the spark fade from my expression. It was his personal entertainment. When Grandma Rose attempted to assist me, Julian's tone turned sharp as a blade. "Touch that cloth, old woman, and I'll have you placed in a nursing home so fast you won't get a chance to pack your dentures." I rubbed at the floor until my knees were raw that day. I kept scrubbing because I was convinced I had no worth beyond what I could tolerate. The heavy thud of the vault door closing snapped me back. I opened my eyes. I was no longer that terrified 10-year-old. I was the woman holding the spark. The VP set a large folder on the table. "Your grandmother didn't merely establish a standard savings account, Miss Vance. Back in 1985, she created a payable-on-death trust. She was an early backer in Intel and Adobe. She reinvested every cent of profit back into the holdings for nearly 40 years. He rotated the document toward me. "The present valuation of the trust, legally transferable to you upon her death, stands at $11,800,000. The figure sat there on the paper, solid and undeniable. $11,800,000. I gazed at it. I pictured the champagne bucket. I imagined Julian laughing into the microphone, dismissing this fortune as garbage. He had grasped $11 million in his fingers and discarded it because he was too prideful to examine the cover. Is there any other individual attached to this account? I inquired, my tone steady. Professional. No, the VP confirmed. Only you. It's completely yours. I touched the brittle, stained passbook. It was more than just money. It was ammunition. And for the first time in my existence, I understood precisely where to direct it. My husband, David, didn't glance up when I entered our apartment. He was bent over his computer at the kitchen counter, surrounded by stacks of printed reports. The atmosphere in our compact place felt heavy, charged with the anticipation of something about to shatter. David isn't just a financial analyst. He's an investigator of hidden structures. He locates the weak points in the framework that everyone else misses. It's not a legitimate enterprise, Elena, he said, finally rotating the screen toward me. His tone was calm, stripped of feeling. It's a classic Ponzi scheme built on fake real estate deals and pure ego. I studied the monitor. I anticipated seeing wealth. I anticipated seeing the fortunes Julian boasted about at every corporate dinner and family gathering. Instead, I was met with a sea of red. He's broke, David explained, pointing at a document. The estate in Greenwich is in foreclosure, proceedings initiated 2 weeks ago. The family holdings he claims to oversee, they're drained. He's been cycling the same $75,000 through 8 different dummy corporations to create an illusion of cash flow. And this is the critical part. He's under investigation. The IRS delivered a tax deficiency notice last month. I examined the figures. The man who had disposed of my grandmother's heritage into a champagne bucket wasn't a powerful magnate. He was a sinking man gasping for air in an ocean of liabilities. He didn't just desire money. He required it to stay out of federal custody. My phone buzzed. It was him. I activated the speaker. David stopped typing. Elena. Julian's voice echoed through the kitchen. There was no regret, no pause, just the arrogant confidence of someone who believed. He still commanded everything. I've been reflecting on that little property your grandmother left you. The beach house. What about it? I asked. My fingers rested on the table to hide the shaking, but my voice was cold steel. I'm offering to help you out, he said. I've consulted with my property lawyer. We can unload it quickly. I'll manage the transaction, secure you a decent price, and put the money into the family business so you can see some actual profit. You're a nurse, sweetheart. You have no clue about property taxes or upkeep. I'm trying to prevent you from a burden. He desired the beach house. It was the sole physical possession Rose had bequeathed to me besides the passbook. It was valued at maybe $250,000. Pocket change to a billionaire, but a lifeline to a panicked fraudster. I'm not selling, Dad, I stated. The line fell silent. Then the facade cracked. You pay attention to me, he hissed, his voice deepening. That woman was mentally unfit when she signed that deed. I've got people ready to swear that you manipulated a confused senior into giving up family property. If you refuse to sign those transfer documents by Friday, I will sue you for elder exploitation. I will pull you through probate court until you're left with nothing. Do you comprehend me? You're in over your head, Elena. He wasn't looking out for me. He was searching for cash, anything he could grab, convert, and pour into his collapsing scheme. I understand completely, I said. Excellent. I'll have the paperwork delivered. The call ended. I looked at David. He wasn't alarmed. He was grinning, a sharp, knowing grin that mirrored the sensation building inside me. Julian imagined he was intimidating a vulnerable daughter. He didn't realize he had just provided us the guide to his own downfall. He was frantic, and frantic people make errors. I held off 24 hours before contacting him again. Silence acts as a potent tool. It allows the panic to grow. David and I dedicated that day not to worry, but to planning. We didn't engage an attorney to challenge the sale of the beach house. We commissioned a designer to fabricate a collection of investment records. When I finally called Julian's number, I delivered the performance of my lifetime. I didn't channel the confident woman who had departed the bank vault. I summoned the 10-year-old girl terrified of spilling bourbon. Dad, I whispered when he answered. I let my voice waver. I'm sorry for how I reacted before. I didn't know what to tell you. You should be apologetic, he snapped. Yet the harshness had softened somewhat. He was paying attention. "It's not only the cottage," I said, pitching my voice to the ideal tone of confused worry.
"I
Visited the bank, that old booklet. It actually had money inside." The line went completely quiet. I could almost hear him processing the information. "What's the figure?" he asked. The avarice seeped through the phone like smoke. $11 million. I stammered. $11 million. But Dad, I'm completely lost. The bank officer started discussing capital gains taxes and government reviews, and I think I'm in serious trouble. If the IRS discovers this money, they'll claim a huge portion. I have no idea how to protect it. It was the flawless lure. I offered him exactly what he thought of me, that I was weak, unintelligent, and unable to manage power. And I gave him precisely what he craved: a huge cash infusion to conceal his own violations. "Listen to me closely, Elena," he said. His tone shifted instantly from aggressor to rescuer. It was unnerving. "Do not finalize anything with the bank. Do not speak to any lawyers. You bring those papers to me. I can shield it under the family holdings. We can categorize it as a long-held asset.
It's
complex, but I can eliminate the tax burden. I'm doing this for you, honey. To look after you." Look after me? He wanted to absorb the inheritance to patch the leaks in his sinking vessel. "Can we meet tonight?" I asked. "No," he responded quickly. He required time to draft the fake transfer forms. "I have the civic leader dinner on Saturday in Chicago. It's ideal. Bring the documents there. We'll complete the signatures in the private suite before the presentations. I'll proclaim the growth of the family fund. It'll seem entirely proper." He craved the crowd. He craved the acclaim of revealing an $11 million gain as his own brilliant strategy. "All right," I said.
"Thank you, Dad.
"I appreciate you handling this. That's the role of a father," he said. I ended the call. I turned to David. The fear dissolved from my face instantly.
He took it,"
I confirmed. David simply nodded, already printing the documents we would actually present. They appeared exactly like the routine transfer forms Julian would anticipate. Identical layout, similar wording, yet the small text wasn't a transfer of money.
It was a
declaration of full responsibility. Julian thought he was capturing a foolish daughter. He didn't grasp that he had just welcomed the person who would bring him down to his own celebration. The Civic Leader charity dinner occupied the magnificent main hall of the Palmer House Hilton. Crystal fixtures scattered light across the attendees of Chicago's elite. It was a gathering filled with established wealth, political influence, and in my father's situation, frantic, grasping ambition. I showed up at 8:05 that evening. I avoided the neutral, practical clothes Julian favored me in. I selected a bold crimson gown that cost more than my monthly salary. I moved through the gathering, not around its edges. I spotted Mason by the bar, laughing excessively, clearly past his limit.
He didn't notice me.
He was too occupied performing the part of the privileged son to a crumbling dynasty. Julian stood near the main platform, surrounded by 2 council members. He looked triumphant. It was the glow of someone who believed he had just executed the perfect deception. When he noticed me coming near, his practiced smile stayed fixed, yet his gaze sharpened. He excused himself and approached me near the stage steps. "You're behind schedule," he whispered through his teeth, maintaining his public smile for the photographers. "Did you bring it?" "I have it," I confirmed. I extended the black leather presentation folder.
He snatched it from my grasp.
His avarice emanated from him like a physical force. "Is everything in order?" he pressed. "The transfer approvals, the legal authority. It's all included, Dad, exactly as you requested. It places the full $11 million under the family holdings.
You simply need to sign as the
primary manager to receive the assets." He opened the folder. He didn't examine the terms. He didn't review the details. He just located the signature space. A cautious person would have questioned why the document was labeled Declaration of Past Control and Complete Liability. A cautious person would have pondered why the referenced periods extended back 15 years, connecting him retroactively to every dummy firm noted in the addendum. Yet Julian wasn't cautious. He was egotistical. He trusted so entirely in his own superiority that he couldn't imagine a reality where I posed the danger. He took a luxury pen from his pocket. "You made the correct choice, Selena," he stated, marking his signature with a dramatic stroke. At last, he passed the folder back to me, dismissive, already redirecting his focus to the platform. "Find a spot in the rear," he directed. "I have an important statement to make." He strode up the steps to the stage. The room hushed. The spotlight illuminated him. I didn't retreat to the back. I shifted to the edge, photographed the signed page, and transmitted it 3 miles distant. David received it, connected it to the official report we had completed days before, and submitted it to the Treasury Department's online portal. Instants later, Julian grasped the microphone. "Distinguished guests," he declared proudly. "This evening, we begin a major growth of the Vance Family Foundation. An $11 million dedication to this community's advancement." He was confessing openly before 400 witnesses. He asserted control over funds I had just connected to 15 years of tax evasion. He imagined he was revealing his legacy. He was reciting his own legal warnings. My phone vibrated.
Got it.
Confirmation code received. Julian was still smiling when the massive LED screen behind him shifted. The foundation logo disappeared, substituted by a Treasury Department emblem marked with bold letters. "Federal Asset Freeze in Progress. Case 9-7-3-1. Cheers dissolved into quiet. Julian turned, confused instead of frightened. His brain refusing to accept a truth that didn't fit his narrative. That was his crucial weakness. Not ignorance, but arrogance. He never imagined someone he considered irrelevant could construct a snare substantial enough to contain him. The main doors burst inward. 4 Treasury enforcement agents swept down the center aisle. Julian Vance, the senior agent, commanded. "Move away from the podium." Julian clutched the microphone. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "We do," the agent responded. "You're the primary manager who signed a declaration taking responsibility for 15 years of concealed overseas accounts." Julian spun toward me. "She deceived me, my own daughter. Save your statements for the court." Handcuffs locked into place. Cameras captured the moment as he was escorted out. Deprived of grandeur, diminished to a man in a borrowed tuxedo. I assumed it was finished. It wasn't. The private suite door slammed shut. The lock clicked. Mason stood there perspiring, face flushed, wild with anger. "You've destroyed everything," he spat.
"It was already destroyed," I said.
"The money was never real." He grabbed a sharp steak knife. This wasn't planning anymore. It was pure impulse, the instant when the fantasy of family collapses and hopelessness reveals its true nature. David stepped in front of me. "Open the door, Mason." Mason lunged. David caught his arm, twisted, and the bone cracked. The knife slid across the marble floor. By the time agents forced the door open, my brother was weeping, not from the injury, but from his own insignificance. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, the air smells like ocean and fresh coffee. I'm sitting on the deck of my beach house mine. I repaired the porch, removed the overgrown vines, turned it into a sanctuary. Julian was refused bail. His holdings are seized. His empire liquidated. Mason accepted a deal.
No.
Fortune awaits him. Only the requirement to work. I burn the declaration on the deck. I have no further use for it. The Treasury and Justice Department already possess everything essential. This page was simply the dread I used to carry. David sits beside me. The trust transfer is finalized. It's entirely yours. What do you envision doing with it? I look out at the water. $11 million. Nothing. I respond. Allow it to increase. I remain a nurse. Still Elena. The wealth isn't authority. It's security. Family isn't defined by biology. It's those who remain beside you when the vault swings open.